Alright, I'm going to show you how to set up the JetBrains IDEs on a ARM-based virtual machine. This is Ubuntu running on macOS, and you need to do something very different than what I normally do. Usually I just go get the toolbox and then click on the buttons and get all the IDEs. But with things set up the way they are, you need to go out and specifically get the ARM edition of the IDEs that you want. For this particular case, I'm going to do 4 different IDEs: the IntelliJ IDEA, Rider, WebStorm, and GoLand. Those are my primary languages that I tend to work with, so I'm going to grab those. So go to download page and then select the ARM64 version, and that'll start downloading. Go to Rider, download page. You have to pick Linux for it because it auto-detects Windows always for whatever reason. Then WebStorm, same thing, download. Go pick the ARM64, and then GoLand, same thing, download. TarGZ, get the ARM64 version. So with all those downloading, go out here, click continue downloading, and then you can see them downloading on the downloads page. And then once that's done, click on the show in folder to bring up where the downloads went. Go over here and then extract them where they are. At least that's what I would do. That's going to take a minute because this is gigs and gigs of IDE. So I'm going to use the magic of video to go zoom. And we're done. Okay, so it's all unzipped. I take those and move them into a directory. You can put them in various places, but I go ahead and stick them in a directory I like to control called applications with a Z, just to make sure I don't confuse it with other applications directories. Then you can delete your zips or whatever if you want to. At this stage though, go into the terminal and begin navigating into each of these IDEs. I'll go into JetBrains first and go into the bin directory within the unzipped directory and execute the rider.sh shell script. That'll launch the IDE. We can confirm the user agreement. I always do anonymous statistics. I like to help out. Skip import. And for this purpose, don't worry about getting any dependencies installed or anything like that. Just get it up and running. Like I always skip past this. I don't install .NET and Mono right now because that would take probably an hour. I do go ahead and click on the heap allocation and the spec flow just to have it installed. And then I click on start using Rider. From this point, it'll come up and I go ahead and authenticate my account so that I don't have to do this for the subsequent IDEs. If you're just installing this from scratch, you'll have to go with either the default load or sign in with your own account. You got to figure out what you want to do there. Because if you're doing a trial period, you know, you'll have your 30 days or whatever. But if you have an account, definitely sign in at this point. It makes everything easier. All right, here I'm going to go ahead and start a new solution. And I'm just going to make it a blank solution. Nothing needs to be in it. I'm just going to leave it default name. Just get it started. And the reason I do this is because, as with each of the subsequent IDEs also, you click on Tools, and then there's a Create Desktop Entry, and there's a Create Launcher. And you'll want to go in. It'll require auth, and do each of those for each of the IDEs. And I also like to set it to just close when I tell it to close. So I do that, and I start to navigate back, and I go into and just run it from the terminal with Rider now. So now the Rider IDE will start from the terminal. And if you notice, I can't drag it over to the side there because all I did was add a command line prompt. At this point, I didn't add the desktop feature. So go back into Tools and go down to the Create Desktop Entry. So the launcher is done, and I'm adding a desktop entry now. Once you add the desktop entry, which is a little confusing on Linux because it doesn't add it to the desktop, but it gives you the ability to now launch it via that screen. So that's when you hit your little command key or whatever, and it gives you the ability to type in the command from that versus being at the terminal. When you launch it, as you can see now, you can drag the icon over onto the left to make it launchable via the icon. So we now have the ability to launch it via the launcher in the terminal and via the bar over to the left. In addition to hitting the function key or whatever that is, the command key, depends on your keyboard, and typing it in that way and clicking on it. So I'm going to go through and do that with Go Same process. You could go ahead and get the particular SDK for Go that you want at this point, but you can do that whenever you get into a project and you need to get whatever version it is or whatnot. But right now, just go ahead and, at least what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the command line launchers and the desktop entries added for each of the browsers. And remember, for each of these, it's the same process. You navigate fully into the path where it's whatever IDE/bin, and then in there will be like goland.sh or whatever, writer.sh, idea.sh, etc. Whichever IDE it is, it'll be something.sh in the bin directory. Launch it from there, and you'll be good to go. Just go through this process, and you'll get that desktop and launcher capability added. All right, so using the magic video again, I'm speeding through the rest of these. And then after I get them all set up, then I just go through and I show that from the terminal, I am launching IDE. I'm going to click on Go from the bar over on the left. And then I'm going to use the function key or command key to launch from just typing in the command from the OS. So each of those is launching up, as you can see. Beep boop, beep boop. All right, and then here, just one more little trick. Hit Control C to kill the IDE one launched from the terminal. So when you launch it from the terminal, if you don't use the IDE and then the ampersand to launch it and then release thread, you leave it stuck tied to the terminal. In this particular case, now my terminal is free, so I can clear and use the terminal, but IDE is launched and up and ready to go.